Yesterday, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. As Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy, I have directed that all measures be taken for our defense, but always will our whole nation remember the character of the onslaught against us. I ask that the Congress declare that since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan on Sunday, December 7th, 1941, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
I was born September 1st, 1914, downtown Manhattan in New York. My dad had his business down there. He was an architect, and one day he got a call to come to Buffalo. His business was repairing houses interior. The first house he did, the people were amazed. He decided not to run back and forth. He moved the family to Buffalo. Buffalo was a good little city. The schools and everything were good down there. I was a loner. When I say loner, I didn't have a lot of friends because I was never in one place any time. I was a swimmer. I loved to swim because the only pool I knew about was 32 School, which was 3 blocks from my house. I'd walk to school every morning, and when I saw that pool, I loved it. I left school because war was starting, and I had no idea how, where, to when. I knew I would never be drafted because I was enhanced by the fact that I wanted to be a pilot. And I started to inquire through library books and everything else and get a lot of information and how to do it. And the best one would be to take examinations and try to get into West Point. There was one exam that we had to pass. 40 kids gonna take this from all over the country. Not one passed it. Not one. And that ended West Point. Couldn't get in. That was it. I got a license to fly. And when war broke out, I enlisted. And from then on, I was flying for the USA. And then one day I got the report, we're going overseas. The last one was the Battle of the Bulge, 18 degrees below zero. You don't know if the engine would turn over. It was just unimaginable how bad it was. And they called me, you sleep 3 hours, fly 3 hours, 24 hours a day, and we wiped them out. Battle of the Bulge, and I was in it right in the middle of it. I was shot down, and I was being hit coming down. I could see the bullet holes going through the parachute. In my whole left arm, my whole leg, and all the way down. I laid there 3 days, and I was smart enough to wrap myself in the parachute, because the parachute those days were made of silk, cloth. And I lay there, and finally a tank of Germans were leaving, and they picked me up, threw me on top of the tank. The first place they came to was a kids' camp, and they turned me over to the Hitler Youth, and I stayed there with them for at least a month and a half, where the kids would beat me, and no food, nothing. And when I was shot down, I weighed 150 pounds. When I get released, 80 pounds. You can't believe how rotten they are. Killing people. I was at Auschwitz. Auschwitz, they were killing 1,000 people a day. And all families, mother, father, children, at Auschwitz, went into a place that said, strip you down and we want you to shower. They all fell dead. You look out, thousands of bodies, naked, laying in there. Mother, father, children, all the Jewish people, all like that. 6 million Jews, 5 million Polish. They did that. A POW is, you get no food, nothing. 400 people there, prisoners, and 2 officers. And I took over 250 people. And the other guys took 200, and we were talking to them because they also were committing suicide. They couldn't take it. I saved a lot of lives. Where they kept POWs. They left, the Germans. The war was ending, and they left all the prisons and everything else and just went to save their lives. Hitler ordered everything that he owned, aircraft, submarines, tanks, name it. He went everything to Belgium, where the war was, and we still wiped them out. And that was the last of the war. When I came back to Buffalo, I had no house, I had nowhere to go, so my older brothers lived, and they invited me to live with them for a while, till I get organized. And I did. I had no car. They were not selling cars. They were not building cars. All the used car lots, everything was closed because of the war. So I had a friend a long time ago. I looked him up, and his son was an auto mechanic, and I called him, and he had a car, and he came down, we met, and I told him what I wanted to do. And I said, I'm going to call you and let you know what to do. And what I did, I took a streetcar to Lackawanna. Lackawanna is the edge of Buffalo. Picked out a street, went to every house I could, knocked on the door, introduced myself, said I'm a soldier, I just got back from the war. And she says, oh yeah, I'm so disappointed. Her husband was killed and never came home. And I told her what I was doing there, and she showed me the car in the garage. It was a Ford. I looked at it, and I made a deal with her. I called my friend's son, had him pick it up, redo it all, made it look pretty good. And then when I had a car, the first thing I did is join the YMCA and the Buffalo Athletic Club. And then I come out one day, and in my windshield is a note, and it said, I am very interested in purchasing this vehicle. My phone number is so-and-so. Please call me. I took it, tore it up. There's thousands of people now that can't buy a car, that are coming home from the war. So I started, bought 2 or 3 cars, get them all fixed. And opposite the YMCA in downtown Buffalo, there was an empty lot. So I fixed it up and put the cars there, start selling them like that. Then I went to work for Packard and Oldsmobile, Dodge, and everything. I said, why should I do work for them? So I opened my own agency. And in between, I formed a little baseball club. We were coming home, and we run into a bunch of girls that live in the area where the stadium is. And a bunch of girls, all in evening gowns, they're going to a dance and that. And they said, why don't you come with us? I got 5 guys with me. I'm the pitcher. And I said, oh, no, I couldn't do it. And I left them. And then 3 or 4 days later, one of the girls called me up, and she says to me, there's one of the, Sybil, a girl that was in the bunch, said to the other girls, you know, they're all friends, she said, that Sid is the man I'm going to marry. And you want to know something? I married. Bought a house. She called me, and I was busy, and she said, I found a house. It's half built. I like the way it is. I says, okay, give him $1,000 down and finish it. But I want you to tell him I'm going to give you a note, and I want you to give it to him, and I want that work done. Instead of using any kind of plastic in the plumbing, I made him put in brass. We had 50 years together, never raised my voice. She never raised her voice. And we had Richard. I shot down and bailed out and survived that. And I laid there 3 days, 4 days, almost frozen to death. And that was good for a Purple Heart. They invited me to a game. It was sold out. There were over 75,000 people. When they saw me walk out, and I had my kid brother with me, the one that was 80. And I went out, and I went on, I gave him a real good salute, and then I went like this. Everybody raised. And then I got everybody standing up and I said, I want this football game to be awarded to Buffalo. And you want to know something? They won the game. When I was overseas, I carried no money. I had no money. I never asked anybody for anything. Anything I ever got was given to me because I earned it. To come out of a POW loaded with shrapnel in my body and overcome it, that's a miracle in its own. Being a warrior, I'd never go back to war or anything. There's wars right now in the small countries. As long as people are alive, there'll be wars. They'll never go away. There'll always be a war.